Hi guys, good morning. This is Dan. Welcome to Engelgeist. For those of you that are new, welcome. For those of you that are returning, welcome back. And for those of you that support me over on Patreon, thank you so very much for your support. This is the daily forecast for all signs. This is actually the weekly. It's the Sunday, which is the underpinning energy of the week, what we're looking forward to. Each card will represent maybe a day or two or three. Some of you may experience all of these cards. And then some. Some of you might only experience a few of these cards. It really depends. So just take what you need and kind of leave the rest. Please check out the video description in the drop-down menu. In there is my Linktree link and the ways to follow me on social media, book a private reading, support the channel. If you enjoy the readings, please hit the thumbs up button and consider subscribing to the channel. Hit the notification bell if you do, and that way you'll be notified when I go live. And I should say happy 4th of July. Today is the 4th. As we start this week, this is going to be from Sunday the 4th through Saturday the 10th. So that's what we're looking at. The cards will be telling us. It is a broad spectrum reading, so again, you have to be flexible with where this may fit in your life. If it does resonate or it does make sense, use it to its fullest advantage, right? Allow it to make you aware and to provide you with insight. If you're watching it on a date that doesn't fall between those dates, between the 4th and the 10th of July, that's okay. You might be seeing the message anyways just because you need it for when you're seeing it. So keep an open mind in that regard and continue to watch the video and see if the message does make sense to a certain area of your life. I believe that our higher self or our guides can find us the messages when we need them versus rather when they were made for. All right, so let's get into this and see what's going on and what the cards want us to know. We're working with two new decks for July. They've been very interesting. I'm enjoying both of them, I will say. One of them is the HERBCRAFTERS Tarot, which we're going to get into right now, and the other is the Fairy Medicine Oracle, which will be the Oracle card that we'll be using. Okay, so interesting that this shows up because this was our end energy for last week's reading. And this is the Hanged One, or Burdick, right? Card number 12, which is Major Arcana. What's interesting to me is I know that Burdick is a root, right? So we might be, and this isn't necessarily it is a hanged man meaning as far as maybe feeling a little bit stuck or on pause, on hold, having to take some time, not make any real decisions just yet, so that you can't, you might be feeling a little sense of frustration around that or some desire to want to move forward, but you can't necessarily due to the fact that there's something that we need to know. And what I mean by need to know is sort of like an enlightenment aspect to it. There's a part of the Hanged Man, he's associated with the sign of Pisces. And he was actually the end of the week card on last Sunday. So it's interesting that this energy is still kind of hanging around this week, in the beginning of this week. It says that some of us are feeling, I don't want to say trapped, but we might be at a place of unable to move forward for whatever the reason. My feeling with the Hanged Man is always like ease into it, relax, and pay attention to what's going on around you. Because the Hanged Man is going to show you what it is you need to know. He's going to enlighten you through the experience of shifting into maybe the present moment, shifting into a place of observation, shifting into a place of like passive observation in a way, rather than trying to get something done or focusing on what you're not able to do at this time, right? When I think of Burdick being a root, that rooting down into the planet or whatever makes me feel like we might be firmly stuck in maybe say some of our ideas or how we want a certain thing to be or to turn out or to change in a certain way. But we may have to let go of that, right? We may have to shift our perceptions and not necessarily force them to shift, right? Just be open to new ideas, open to new changes, open to new perceptions, open to new awarenesses in whatever area we might feel like we want change and we're not receiving it just yet. The Hanged Man is associated with the sign of Pisces, so it can be emotional. It can be very much based in your intuition. It could be a sense of feeling like, you know what, things aren't exactly the way I want them to be. We can sit there, we can certainly take this time to reflect on how they might feel better to us or how they might change for our benefit. But sometimes with the Hanged Man, it's not necessarily the exact time to start to go about forcing things into place or making things change. Does that make sense? So I would say in the beginning part of the week, expect to be asked to pay attention, right? To be asked or to be as in the present moment as you can, as much as possible. Trying to have maybe say a lack of judgment. I would say use the roots of the burdock, right? To stay rooted and grounded. But don't necessarily focus on the fact that you might feel stuck or unable to move or to change or to enact the change that you seek, right? Don't let that bring you down, because there's something you're gaining out of this time. Certainly seeing this card overlapping 2 different weeks readings says to me that there's for some reason there's something here that we need to look at, become aware of, or see and accept before we're going to be able to move on. And the thing is that the Hangman will show us, and it will always be a gift of enlightenment of some sort. So we just have to trust that it's coming, or that we're ready for it, and that we're going to learn it, right? Now, we have the Hiha of Earth, which is Linden. So we've been seeing that Kuandera of Earth for the last 3 days, right? This is his daughter, so to speak, the Hiha, right? This is sort of the Page of Pentacles. What this says to me, or how this feels to me, is this is about that sort of idea of remaining grounded, but also building. When we look at them wrapping the linden sticks to make this sort of fence here in the picture, the Page of Pentacles will work solidly, fastidiously, with dedication, right? That's that Pentacles energy, right? Paying attention to what we're doing, being patient, taking our time. Again, there's sort of this aspect of being in the present moment, but learning to be in the present moment, right? Catching ourselves maybe in the midweek when we slip out of the task at hand. This woman here is building a fence, right? She needs to be paying attention to exactly what she's doing, or else the fence is not going to work for her. It's either not going to keep people out, or it's not going to keep whatever she wants in, right? She needs to pay attention to what she's doing. The linden wood, I don't know specifics about linden wood per se, but the fact that she's using this wood to weave it through the fence posts to me says that not only is it strong enough to make a fence out of, but it's also flexible enough to sort of be woven or bent a little bit to adjust to whatever's going on around her, right? There's a strength to this wood, but yet a flexibility, right? So we want to be strong. We also want to be flexible. And again, I think that that's being requested of us in the Hanged Man in the earlier part of the week. I think that by midweek, we should be able to take steps towards moving forward in whatever it is that we want, in whatever change we need to enact, but it's going to be slow movement. Let's just say that. I wouldn't expect it to go off like gangbusters. I would say that it's also about sort of, as we move slowly, can we maintain our focus? Can we maintain our attention on the task at hand, right? Once we've attained the enlightenment that the Hanged Man brings us and we start to take steps forward, are we patient still? Are we dedicated, right? And the Page of Pentacles will teach us that, right? Will open us up to the learning of that. Will open us up to the dedication that comes with, right? And so we want to keep that in mind as we move forward. Again, using the sort of principles or the medicine of Linden, or the way that it's being presented to me in this card, is like be flexible, be strong, be creative. There's also a creation aspect to the making of this fence. And there's like a slow and steady wins the race kind of vibe to these 2 cards, is the feeling that I'm getting. So I kind of get a feeling that this week is going, and we'll see what the 3rd card is before I say too much, but I kind of get a feeling that this is about really paying attention this week, where we place our attention, how we place our attention, and then the steps forward that we take as we do it, if that makes sense. So let's see what the next card is. Okay. So the next card is Major Arcana 2. Now we have 2 Major Arcana this week, right? So this is going to be a significant week. But what I'm going to predict for you guys is it's not going to feel significant. Only because these are, to me, these cards feel quite quiet, and they're requesting us to kind of go inward. This card is card number 8, which is Strength, right? And it's the word garlic, or the plant garlic, which is a very powerful plant, has tons of healing properties. It can certainly ward off negativity, as in the vampiric lore of wearing garlic to ward off vampires. But it can also cleanse the bloodstream, right? Bring more oxygen to the blood, all of that sort of stuff. What I love about this garlic is that there's that honeycomb down there on that cutting board too, which there's sort of like a sweetness to garlic. And it's interesting that garlic shows up here today. I'm gonna like tell on myself a little bit. My neighbor has brought me in the recent weeks pickled garlic. And I don't know if anybody knows the magic of pickled garlic, but it is amazing. I've been putting it on turkey sandwiches and it is so good. You wouldn't think it's good, but it is delicious. All right, so that's an aside. That's neither here nor there. The strength card is associated with the sign of Leo, which is the element of fire, right? That fire is about sort of taking action and moving forward, or making decisions so that one can move forward. Certainly empowered or feeling strong about moving forward, right? Maybe making bold choices. That would be the boldness of the garlic. But what I will say is sometimes strength can be about maintaining our choices, but without maybe, taking action or holding back our opinions or our thoughts on things, keeping those things to ourselves. And there's that sort of restraint, right? The strength of restraint that I'm feeling in these cards. I mean, I certainly see the restraint in the first two cards, which would be the Hanged Man, which is all about sort of being asked to pay attention and stay right where we are and take in everything that's going on around us. Look at everything from maybe a different, fresher perspective. Gain the awareness, gain the acceptance, gain the enlightenment of whatever it is that's being shown to us. The Hee-Ha of Pentacles is about then beginning to slowly move forward, starting to learn and build productively, right, within our world. Strength is about maintaining that strength. How do I want to say this? Like, being strong can sometimes mean being patient with others, with our life, with what's going on, with our own evolution, not judging ourselves too much, not berating ourselves or getting down on ourselves if something's not working out the way that we thought it would. Does that make sense? And again, we see this braid that's sort of this garlic braid that we've seen in the last 3 days in that Cuandera of Earth with that braid of sweetgrass. I think that these cards, although two of them are major arcana, which signifies that this will be a profound week for us or an impactful week for us, I get a feeling that it's going to be around something that may not feel quite as cataclysmic or as earth-shattering. This doesn't feel like external shifts. This feels like internal shifts within ourselves, how we perceive ourselves in our world, how we produce in our world, how we connect to our world. The only spaces here where I see movement is that Hee-Ha of Pentacles, and she would be very slow movement at that. Just in traditional meaning, the Page of Pentacles is not like a speedy card. So keeping that in mind. But do I think that the knowledge and the strength that comes out of the Strength card and the knowledge that comes out of the Hanged Man and the learning that comes out of the Page of Pentacles, are those things important, valid, and beneficial? Indeed, right? So do not take this week for granted. Pay special close attention to be in the present moment as much as you can this week. Take strides and steps where you can when it's acceptable and correct. You should know these things as you learn them and as you move forward towards them. If at the end of the week you feel viable and strong enough to make bigger steps and leaps, by all means do so. There is a sweetness to this honey on this garlic card too that I feel like is being, it's telling me that not everything is, unenjoyable. Does that make sense? By week's end, there should be things we can enjoy. I love the rose petals coupled with the honey, coupled with the garlic, right, which would represent the strength. To me, there should be, and Leo energy would be about indulgence or luxuriousness, enjoying that, sharing that. So if there's opportunities for some of you to enjoy those things, certainly revel in it, enjoy it. But if some of you find yourself having to be a little bit more composed or restrained in a way, to me the Strength card feels like the restraint is by choice rather than by circumstance or by we're not being forced to be restrained, where we may feel that way in the beginning of the week with the Hanged Man. Okay? So let's see what the Fairy Medicine Oracle has to say. I hope this makes sense, guys. And again, each one of you, this may be something around a different situation. Some of you might be dealing with, troubles in your job, and this is what's going on for you. You're experiencing these feelings of non-movement, or maybe in a friendship or a relationship or with a family member. You will begin to take steps by the midweek. They might be careful steps where we're really paying attention, where we're really, maybe protecting ourselves slightly, ensuring our protection, our own stability, but not necessarily, harming another. Does that make sense? So pay attention to what you're doing this week, because I think that it's going to be quite important. Let's see what the Fairy Medicine Oracle has to say. Okay, we have Restore. Take time to slow down and rest, retreat to a magical place. I really believe that this magical place is within yourself. It's card number 19, which boils down to a 10, which would boil down to a 1. 1 and 9 is 10, and 10, 1 plus 0 is 1. 1 is the self-focused nature of, a self-focused place. I love the peaceful deer. We have the Fae there joining her. She's in a warm bath that has fruit in there, which it kind of makes me feel like the indulgence of the honey by the end of the week. This restoration that takes place in this card, I feel like is something that's going on throughout the entirety of the week, starting with the Hanged Man. If we've been fighting towards the end of this last week, now's the time to stop fighting, settle in, get present, and accept where you're at. And then through that acceptance, ideally some enlightenment should come. Allow the slowness of the He of Pentacles to allow you to not only maybe get a little bit of work done or take some steps, learn a new way of a new route to travel, right? But also to restore oneself as you're doing so. That restoration that happens in those first two cards brings us to this place of strength, and we can still continue to restore ourselves through the Strength card too. Does that make sense? So there should be, as we restore ourselves too, we can restore our vision, our perspective, and how we relate to our world, and set ourselves up for success, maybe for the week to come, right? Or maybe the month to come, I don't know. But whatever's going on here, it's going to have a significant play out, is my feeling. And we may not realize it until, we're a week or two down the road and we're like, oh, that's why I was figuring out what I was figuring out back then. Okay, here is the grounding stone for this week. It is on obsidian, which wards off negativity, and the word is wisdom. So like I said, this is about internal wisdom. This is about an awareness that we're gaining through the end of last week into the beginning of this week. It's about a new wisdom that we'll be learning through the He of Pentacles. And that wisdom, ideally, through our own restoration and our own focus on self, where we're at, how we're interacting, and not like laying blame with others, not laying blame with situations, but really looking at things from maybe a fresher perspective, or how can I better restore myself so that I can sync up with these scenarios in my life. Can we provide ourselves with that wisdom and that strength to move into the following week? And I don't know why, but I kind of get this funny feeling that this is something that is we're doing this so that we can be better prepared for something to come. Let's just say that. That's how I'll determine that. There's some sort of intelligence or awareness that we are gaining out of this week that is important for our next steps. And that should be our focus. And I will say this too, there's a aspect to the word of wisdom where sometimes wisdom, we don't necessarily share it, right? We gain it for ourselves and we live by it, but we don't necessarily have to sway others to it, convince others of it. And that's some of that strength card too, to me. Does that make sense? This is going to be something extremely personal. That's that 19 in the Restore card. It's about us and what we know to be true. All right, that is your forecast for the day, guys. Thank you so much. Please hit the thumbs up button. Have a wonderful week. It should be beautiful. And I will see you guys tomorrow. We'll see how this builds and what else we'll experience throughout this week. Please subscribe and hit the thumbs up, and I will see you later. Take care. Bye-bye.